Today I'm reviewing the Ampapa D1 stereo hi-fi amplifier. The D1 features swappable op amps, digital VU meters, and 300 watts of output power. Can this budget amp sound any good? Let's find out and let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? David here from Prime Audio Reviews. So the D1 here comes in at a price of $199 US. And for that price, you're getting a pretty interesting feature set. Very interesting, I will say, actually. So let's run down some of those features now. So inside, you've got an NJW1194 analog volume controller, and that works alongside a TPA 3255 power stage. So that keeps the noise down while giving the D1 that 300 watts of output power. And like I said, you can swap out the op amps in this device. Let me just take the power out for a second, because I want to show you one of the other features which sort of falls under the design segment, but we'll get to it here. So on the top here, you've got this glass panel which just pops out like that, which is super convenient and very practical considering. So if you want to change your op amps, those two there, they are dual op amps, by the way. Yeah, it's as simple as that, which is a really clever idea. And I wish, some other amps would do that. Things like Burson amps, they are famous for making op amps, their own op amps, and of course, all their amplifiers are have swappable op amps. But you have to, with those ones, you have to unscrew the chassis and pull the whole thing apart. Maybe they should implement something like this because it's just so easy and practical. However, you do have to be very careful, because if you're just handling the device absent-mindedly, I found this out the hard way, if you just turn it the wrong way, this glass just falls out and you risk damaging or breaking it. So I do wish that this were on a hinge so you could perhaps just flip it up out of the way, that way, or to the side, perhaps, anything just to make it a little more secure. But that's how easy it is to swap out the op amps. Other features that the D1 has, you get bass and treble tone controls, which is always nice for, fine tuning or tweaking your system. And it's got a neat high pass filter, which is important because this has a subwoofer out. So it's got a 3.5mm pre-out, and I'll show you that in a second, which is perfect for a powered subwoofer, or you can hook it up to another external amp or active speakers. So already, for the $200 asking price, we're already seeing a lot of features here. In addition to that, we've got wireless Bluetooth connectivity, and that is Bluetooth 5.2 with a Qualcomm QCC304X chip inside, and that supports aptX and LDAC, so you're not stuck with just SBC or AAC. In addition, yes, there's more. You get a 12-volt trigger input, for easier system integration. So if you have a DAC, for example, with a 12-volt out trigger, you can turn this on and off at the same time from the one device, which is really useful. It does come with a fully functional remote, and yeah, all the features are available here on the remote. It's just a little plastic thing, but it works, and it's got all the buttons, which is just what you need. Now, the other big feature about this is the digital VU and spectrometers, and I will show you those in a sec. But you actually get 8 different styles to choose from, which is just huge. And they add a nice bit of character to the device, but it doesn't look tacky. It looks really nice. You'll see that in a second. But taken as a whole, the D1 feels like a surprisingly complete and a very versatile unit. Again, for that $199 asking price, it does a lot. This video is sponsored by Final. All right, quick break, and this one is genuinely interesting. It's from Final, and they've just launched something called the Tonalite. Now, normally when a company says they're doing something world first, you can take that with a large grain of salt, but in this case, they actually mean it. Vinyl has created the world's first earphones that personalize timbre, the actual character and color of sound based on your anatomy. That's not just an EQ preset, not a generic curve. They literally scan your head and ears using an app and your smartphone's front-facing camera, and they build a 3D acoustic avatar which they run through their own auditory model and then shape the sound to match how you naturally hear timbre. And of course, you get ANC or active noise cancelling, ambient mode, wireless charging, multi-point connectivity, low latency mode, EQ, basically everything people expect these days, except the part where you lose one earbud under the couch. That feature is still universal. So if you want to check these out, they are launching on Kickstarter. I will leave a link in the description below. Big thanks to Vinyl for supporting the channel and honestly for giving us something new to talk about. Anyway, back to the video. Okay, I'm going to walk you around the build now. I'll just take out these RCA cables, and before I start flipping it around, very important to take off that glass panel. All right, so here it is. It's pretty compact. It fits in the palm of my hand just about. And yeah, it feels nice. The build quality is good. It's got a bit of heft to it. It feels more substantial than a lot of desktop, stereo devices that you get around this $200 and under price point. But let's look at the front panel. It's pretty simple. You got your display there, and you've got a volume knob and a select button there. On the sides, we've got some Ampapa cutouts, and that is not only looks cool when the lights are on. Oh, I didn't mention that. You'll see that there are actually lights inside here as well as the display. So those lights look really cool when they're coming out of here, but obviously it also helps with heat dissipation. And then around on the back here, here's your high pass filter, which is adjustable, or you can turn it off completely. Then you've got your Bluetooth antenna. This is your RCA input, and then you've got some balanced TRS inputs. So again, another feature, balanced input. You kidding me? Here's the 3.5mm pre-out, and that is the 12-volt trigger in. And then of course your speaker binding posts and your power in there. So overall, the build quality is just amazing. Nice I/O section on the back there, plenty of options, and yeah, so far very impressive. But of course, it depends in the end about how this guy sounds. So let's get down to that. Okay, so I've plugged it back in now, and I don't know if you can see under the lights, but the green LEDs on either side add a nice little touch, a bit of Macintosh flavor in there, if you will. As far as I know, you cannot disable those internal lights. You can, however, adjust the brightness of the front display. So there's one of the VU meters there. Pretty cool, huh? And now with some music playing, you can see there that the VU meter does in reality work. So that's really nice, but just for ease of handling, I'm going to once again remove those RCA cables and get those out of the way. Alright, so I'll give you a look at the system now. So if you press the button, it takes you to the menu. You can select your inputs there between RCA, TRS balanced, and Bluetooth. And another click takes us back out. Let's go back into the menu and have a look at the settings. And within here, you can set the bass and treble tone controls. And then you can adjust the brightness of the display like I mentioned. We'll just use the remote to jump back out there. And then finally, let's have a look at these meters. So here are the first four styles. You've got a spectrum meter there, sort of a digital one looking one there. You've got your blue and your brown vintage style. And then here are the other four, and you can see they're sort of more vintage style ones, but 8 different designs in total, which is, yeah, it's really cool. It's really fun to play around and swap between them. So yeah, that's pretty good stuff. Anyway, let's get down and talk about how this guy sounds. And the sound signature, basically, it is clean and transparent or uncolored. And well, that's great because that lets the character of your speakers speak for themselves. So it leans towards a neutral and transparent sound. It's got good detail and clarity, and it doesn't really ever feel like it's adding its own flavor, unless that is you start playing with those tone controls. And for my speakers at least, which were the NHT C3 speakers, 4 ohm speakers, that this has got plenty of muscle on tap for those, up to 300 watts per channel. So it easily handles those dynamic swings, and it has a nice satisfying punch in the low end. And for my little speakers, yeah, we've got way more power than I would ever need here. I don't think I went anywhere over like 53 out of 100 out of 99 for volume. The overall tonality is really balanced as well, and the bass feels nice and tight and controlled. It's got enough weight to sound satisfying without sort of destroying the mid-range. The mid-range has a nice, rich, present quality. Vocals come through clearly, but it still keeps that nice, uncolored and honest character. Up top in the treble, it's got nicely etched outline with good definition, but it is pretty smooth and free of harshness, assuming your speakers are also free of harshness, giving the whole presentation this nice, clean, natural flow. So those built-in tone controls are definitely handy. So you get 10 dBs of adjustment up and down for the bass and the treble, so you can dial in your preference or to suit your speakers perfectly. And that's, whether you are compensating for a tricky room or a particular speaker pairing, or just tweaking things to your taste. So it's got plenty of flexibility, and adding that subwoofer out, dang, that is a game changer for me, because it, obviously lets me hook up my subwoofer, because as great as my bookshelf speakers are, they don't do massive like sub bass, ultra low bass rumble. They don't do that particularly well, but once the subwoofer is part of the chain, so to speak, things really start to happen. And with that high pass filter there as well, the adjustable high pass filter, you can really dial it in to suit your subwoofer and get the ideal sort of combination. And obviously that is, having that high pass filter there is much easier and more precise than just using a basic line out, which a lot of these budget amps do. So it sounds great. However, when I pushed this little guy far beyond any sensible listening level, remember I've got efficient speakers in a small room. I don't need a lot of power, but if you really push this thing hard, a little bit of distortion does creep in. But again, it's only showed up when I was really forcing the amp to its extremes. So in normal day-to-day use, that is a complete non-issue. But realistically, if you find yourself running pretty much any amplifier at sort of 90% or higher, it's probably a sign you need something with a bit more headroom, and you are pushing your little unit too far. So this will push 8 ohm speakers, but only efficient ones. It is really more designed, I think, for 4 ohm speakers and for a reasonably moderate room size. And within that context, it performs exactly as it should. So it's got all the features, it sounds great, you've got your tone controls, you've got your sub out. Compared to other devices, something like the SMSL A50, I think this one, like the A50, sounds a bit more clinical or analytical, whereas this one has a little more body and naturalness to it. The sound kind of reminds me of the Fozzy Audio BT20A Plus or Pro. Oh, I can never remember that name, but it sounds a bit more like that. However, I think the sound is a bit more refined on this compared to the Fozzy, which makes sense considering this is double the price. But not only do you get a slightly better sound, but you're getting all those added features as well. And I think that pretty much covers it. Look, this is the Ampapa D1 digital HiFi stereo amplifier. In my opinion, it's giving you a lot of value for your money in the features and the sound. It's just obviously an easy recommendation from me. And having said that, it's time to wrap it up. So thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, Pa Family Audiophile style. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button before you go. And until next time, I'll see you later.